I'm going to paint for you some, if I can find them. This is my, let me just explain what this is first. This is a sketchbook that I did, and there's lots of videos up on YouTube on my channel of me painting in this. So go and have a look. I will, if I can find the right video, I will put a link up here somewhere. This is not watercolour paper, it's just £90 cartridge paper or mixed media paper, and in it I've got like, loads of watercolour florals, and I'm going to recreate one for you today and explain what I'm doing as I go, because I thought it would make a nice painting. Now I can't find it, I should have bookmarked it. Let me find it, it's here somewhere. Here we go, this one. I like this, I think it's really pretty, and I'm going to recreate this and talk my way through the process. It'll probably look a bit different because this is not watercolour paper, and I'm going to do it on a sheet of £140 cold pressed paper. This one, it's quite a big sheet. The watercolours I'm going to be using are Kuretake, something takey, Kuretake, I want to say, but it's, if you like Kuretake, I think it's pronounced like that somehow. And you can find these on Amazon. I've just taken out, these came with some like a silver and a gold and a pearlescent, and I don't like painting with pearly paints or metallic paints at all, so I've taken those out. I've just put in a few colours. These paints are really thirsty, so they like suck up a lot of water, and the colours are quite bright. So I think in my book, my sketchbook you've just seen, I used Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith colours probably. I've also got a mixing palette here. I'll probably use a plate actually, and I've got a piece of tissue to mop up any mistakes or anything, and I've also got some bleach in a little squeezy bottle. I use a bleach, it's diluted, it's like it's normal household bleach. I just dilute it into one of those little squeezy bottles. That's a big jug of clean water, and I'm going to use a big brush to start with. This is a Pro Art Connoisseur brush, and it's a number, what number is it? Number? The big one anyway. Is it a number 18, 16? And it's a mixture of synthetic and natural hair, but it goes into a nice point and it holds a lot of water. I also will be using a Zen Art number 8 face squirrel brush. It's also got a really nice point on the end. I'm going to start off by mixing up some nice reds and things. I don't mind my palette getting a mixture of all the colours together. I know some people will find that a bit daunting, but I like the way you can mix lots of neutrals with it as you get. So I'm going to start off by painting the red anemones. There you are. So I'm going to mix together a couple of the, I'm using this orangey red, and then I'm mixing a pinkier red with it. Now I'm just dropping in the colour, these, and I'm adding colour as I go. I just like the way nice wet into wet, so I just add loads of water. Don't be afraid to splodge it everywhere. It's really the way I paint is really loose and free, and we're just trying to get the you don't have to paint botanically. I'm just getting like the essence of the flowers. Let's try a darker one over here. I like putting the colour straight from the pans onto the page. Now you're going to see what the bleach does here. I'm just going to add some bleach around the middle, just like squirt it out like that, and it sort of pushes the colour out and bleaches it out, and it also moves the paint around as well, and I just love the effect you get from it. Just doing a brighter red one here. Lots of water. This brush holds loads of water and it's just really nice. Try not to make them all the same intensity, and try and make some a bit lighter than the others, and you get some nice contrast in your painting and it makes it a bit more exciting to look at. I like to use this water soluble pencil, and I like to just drag the paint and suggest the petals. I mean, it's still really wet, and I'm just letting the paint do what it wants. Try not to use a dryer. I'm not quite liking this circle, but it might work to my advantage, so I'm just going to make it less circly, just adding some water in. I'm going to leave some of it because I think I quite like it. I don't want it to be so obvious. I'm just dragging the paint and drawing in the lines of the petals. If you look really closely, they have like veins going through them. At this point, I'm going to add the dark centres. Just whilst it's still wet, I love how it like picks up on some areas that's still wet and others that aren't, and it spreads out and creates a soft effect. And you can encourage this by adding a bit more. See, I want this to like spread out down here onto this, so you can just wet the edge, touch it, and it will start to spread out a bit more, but encouraging the flow of the paint, which I always think adds a bit of excitement to your painting. Now I'm going to start painting the white anemones. I'm going to do one here, and maybe another one there, so it's 3. It's all 3s. That's how I'm thinking. Now, to paint a white flower, I like to mix up a really gunky, I've got some colour that's already stuck on here, like a neutral colour on my palette, so like a neutral grey. So I usually make mud, let all the colours mix in together. I usually like a purpley grey colour to paint white flowers. I'm going to start off by just dropping the colour in. It might look a bit, you might think, oh my gosh, that's not white, but by the time we finish they will look like white, and this is the shade. Be careful when you're painting wet into wet. Remember what's around, you need to be aware so you don't end up with a big blobby mess. It's nice to let some colours bleed into one another, and other times it's like, no, don't do that. You have to be careful where it's going. And I'm just going to put the middle of this one in now whilst the paint's still wet, to get that flow of the centre of the flowers going. I'm going to paint another one here. It's just really letting it do what it wants to do. And if you don't like some of the bleed throughs you can get your tissue and just mop it up. It's good to have some of the like red reflecting onto the white flowers, because in real life it would as well. So that's okay. I'm just picking up my smaller brushes to do the centre of this one where I want it. Then I'm just going to encourage it to bleed out a little bit at the bottom here, so I'm just going to slightly touch it, and it's just going to flow nicely. Before this one dries too much, I'm just going to blot out some of the shadow, like where the petals are. And also blot the centres of the flowers, because we don't want them solid black. If you look at it's more purpley, which I'm getting the effect of. Now, do we need another one up here? Probably. I'm going to fill it up with little filler flowers as well. I'm just going to paint another, just smaller one up here, just capturing the shape, and then I will come in and add some more shadow colour to it later as it dries. Now at this point I like to put in the centres of the flowers. For this I like to use a water soluble pencil, either in a dark grey or a black. I also like to use a bit of sandpaper, nice and coarse one, and sand my pencil. You know how the pollen falls off the flowers, and I think it gives a nice effect. And it will only go where the paper's wet, so try not to get too carried away with it. Sometimes I get a bit carried away. I just think it makes a nice effect. And doing the centres of the flowers really makes it come alive, and try not to add as much detail to all the flowers, because you need to add have to have flowers with a bit more detail in some areas than others. So I'm just suggesting the stamens of this anemone here. I'm not doing it too. Just try and be really loose. Don't do it so controlled, and you don't have to paint every single one. We're just trying to capture the essence of the flower. For this, you can also use. I like using a uni ball pen. And this is like water soluble as well, and it all sort of bleeds in. I'm just going to block the edges of these petals just to give them like a papery feel, and it just adds another dimension as well. So I'm just going to do that round, not every one again, but just most of it. Just block some of the colour up so you've got some of the light. I'm going to do some little daisies in like blue, pale blue, like forget-me-nots. I'm like thinking anemones come out like in the springtime, so I'm thinking forget-me-nots, they're another springtime flower. So again, you don't have to paint every single petal, you just have to suggest the petals, and you can add a bit darker blue as well, vary the colour. And it makes it more interesting. I'm just going to start adding I want to add some daisies in here, so I'm going to paint the centres of the daisies. I'm going to use a nice bright yellow. I'm just mixing up some red. I'm letting some green. I'm letting the red mix in with it just to knock the colour back, as I've done here. So I'm just mixing it together because the greens in this are really quite vibrant. I want more of a natural green, so I'm just letting the red not kick it back a bit. Anemone leaves are quite, I don't know what to call them, spindly. They have a distinct look to them, so I'm just going to put in a few, and I'm going to add some other green as well. So again, it's just a suggestion. Your brain will like work out that they are leaves. Actually, you don't have to like be really botanical about it. You just need to suggest, and then I'm going to add some other leaves. For simple leaves, if you have trouble, if you've got a round brush with a nice point on it, if you start off really lightly, then press down, drag it along and lift up, and it gives you a nice petal shape, and you don't even have to really try too hard to paint a leaf, and that's a nice leaf there. I like to vary the leaf shapes as well, I don't have them all the same. Now I'm just going to carry on doing the blue flowers. Now I'm going to add some green stems just to the little blue flowers, so they don't look like they're just floating in midair. Now you're going to see me add a bit of yellow to the centres of these flowers. I'm just painting over the top of it, and I think it sort of makes them come alive a bit. I don't know. Sort of like brings the painting together a bit more. And I will be adding some shadows to this. So I'm mixing up like a purpley grey colour, bluey, nice cool shadow colour. And now I'm going to define the petals and put in a few shadows. To do that, I just run a line of paint across and then I blend it out with my brush, so you haven't got harsh lines. You have to determine which petal's in front of the next petal. And a bit of shadow under here because that one's there. Again, you can just suggest things, you don't have to paint every petal separately. It's just working out what goes where and where the shadows look best. This one here, I'm putting quite a harsh shadow underneath here, so I'm going to push it back a bit. Should work. And I do the same to these as well, using the same sort of blue colour. Don't be afraid to paint over the top of the red. You can define where the petals go and which petals in front of one another, things like that. And I paint from memory because I've studied flowers a lot, so I sort of think, and I've painted them so many times as well, I sort of know what looks good. So if you don't know what the flower looks like, go and study it, go and look at it in the light, see where the shadows cast and things like that. Now I'm going to add a bit of shadow to the little daisies. Just think, I'm going to mix up like a darker red, not red, a darker yellow, just to suggest where the light's coming from on these. So I'm not going to do it to everyone. She says she does all of them, probably. And I'm going to suggest some shadows on the flowers as well. Just here and there. Don't have to like say, oh look, they're all going to be in shadow there, but they're not. I'm using blue for the shadows on the daisies, so I'm going to keep them quite crisp. But your brain sort of suggests to you that they're daisies, little white daisies, without you even having to do much work to it. It's just nice to add a little bit of interest here and there. And I'm going to mix up a darker green and add some darker greens. The greens in less. I'm not. They're quite chalky, the greens in this paint set, so I'm trying to mix up. I'm using one of the Winter and Newton greens as well. I'm just adding some some details to some of the leaves, some shady bits to them. Again, don't get carried away, not every leaf needs shadow, and just a few of them. I'm going to add a bit of shadow around the centres of the flowers. Add a bit more depth. I think this one looks like it's not quite there. You can see, if you stand back and look at your painting, you can tell I'm looking at it through the screen, and I can tell where it needs a bit of oomph, so to say. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow up here. And now I'm going to use a yellow Posca pen, which are these Posca pen. They're like paint pens, and I like using these. I'm just going to use this to suggest, not everywhere, we don't want too many yellow dots, so it'd just be too dotty, but the centres of the little forget-me-nots we've painted, just here and there. You don't have to do every one, it just gives your eye something to focus on. I like to highlight some of the stamen ends. It just sort of gives it a bit more oomph, if you know what I mean. Where the light catches it, it brings it, makes it pop. Again, you don't have to do it to every single one, just here and there. You don't have to do it at all. Just a bit of highlight in the middle. Lost that one. There, now I'm going to let this dry completely naturally, because it's still quite wet, and I like the way the paint likes to do its own thing. I love how this is all the greens and it's all like blurring into each other. You wouldn't get that with any other paint. That's what I like about watercolour. It does exciting things, especially if you paint wet into wet, and it does things unexpectedly that you couldn't sort of do on purpose. You have to sort of let it do its thing. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye.